Okay, hello. Happy Mother's Day. It's beautiful and hot out, so I'm going to be doing this outside. I'm also going to be doing a lot of it hiding behind this post. Ideally, you would have something like a post or a pole to play around with this, but what works just as well is like a door jamb. If you just stand in a doorway and use part of the door jamb, um, if you can imagine that this was one side and the other side was right here, you can stand in it and still be able to move your arm back here. That's the goal. But if you don't have a doorway that works, you could just do this against a wall, and then you just can't move your arm out to the side, but you can certainly have it, on the wall. So works anywhere. Just some sort of post that you could put your arm behind is going to be the easiest way to manage it. Okay, so we're going to work on moving the spine by keeping the pelvis and the rib cage and the head all on the same axis. So the first thing we're going to do are the wall cogs. So you guys have all done this before if you've watched my other videos, so I'm not going to spend too much time explaining it other than to say back yourself up against your wall. Your butt is on the wall, your legs are just a little bit out, not very far. Your back, your upper back is on the wall, so the upper part of your rib cage, and your head is on the wall. All three of those parts, pelvis, ribs, and head, are going to move on the wall, but they are not going to leave the wall, okay? So we're going to start by just moving the pelvis. So basically, you're going to tilt it and do what we call a post tilt. Sometimes I call this tucking, like tucking your tail between your legs like a scared dog. So if you do that, you should feel that your lower back and belly button kind of press toward the wall. And then just release out of it. And then do it again. And then release out of it. And what you might feel is that it also tugs on your ribs a little and it tugs on your head position a little. That's all good. It should be toggling with your above parts. So you're tucking, or you are pulse tilting, or you can think of your pelvis as a bowl of water and you're pouring the water out behind you. And you're just relaxing enough so that your other parts are allowed to move. Some of you are practicing this now with your legs straight. If you're one of those people, go ahead and continue that way. But some of us still have a really hard time keeping the knees from bending when we go into this position. And so if that's you and it just throws everything off and you can't find that natural movement, when you try to keep your legs straight, don't worry about the legs for now. Yeah, just let them do what they need to do to feel the pelvis and the ribs and the head articulating. So we're just tucking and untucking. As we tuck, the head is also going to end up rotating that same direction. So pubic bone is rotating upward and the chin will rotate a little bit upward. And then as the pubic bone rotates downward, we can have the chin rotating downward. So you can just kind of think of it like that. My ponytail's getting in my way. Think of it like that, of just allowing those parts to move relative to each other. Chin and pubic bone seem to be pretty good cues for people to think of them going upward and then think of them going downward. It's not giant, right? You're not looking way up because that would also bring other parts of you too far off the wall. It's just really a little bit of a bobbling of your head. Okay, so we're just do a few of those. Should just feel good on your spine. It might be challenging. What you don't want is to feel pain. Yeah, so if you feel discomfort, especially in the neck or the low back, back way off. Most of the time, if people feel discomfort, they tend to feel it when they're pulling the chin and the pubic bone downward and they're crunching something in here. Something's not moving enough and something else is over moving through here. If that's you, just make your movement, make that untucking motion much more of a small relaxation motion. So while your chin and your pubic bone pull up a little bit, just after that, just relax your belly and just kind of see what happens if I just let my belly spill and pull my chin down a little bit. Can you allow the motion to be small enough that it doesn't come with pain in your lower back? And for some of us, that might mean it's really tiny. Okay, so just a few more of those. And then we're going to do, so that's one piece of this movement that we're going to do in a little bit. Another piece is getting things to move still on the axis, but in a sort of side motion. So you'll stand still with your feet close to the wall. In fact, let's do it like this. Let's line up the right heel with the wall or the door jamb. So you're you kind of rest against it a little bit. No, it's better in the middle. Just stand with the post in the middle. Your pelvis, your ribs, and your head are still going to touch the post. Okay, and you're not going to worry about the forward and back motion that we just did with the cogs. You are going to think about it being a different type of motion, and that's sort of a sideways kind of motion. Not to be confused with sideways moving off to the side, okay? So all you're gonna do is keep your left leg straight for a moment and bend your right knee. And what we want that to do is to just have that drop the right half of your pelvis down a little bit. All right, so you should just feel that happening, and I'm putting my hand here so you can see it. You can put your hand there if it helps you. But what I'm doing here is keeping my center lined up with the post behind me. So I'm not going into a bent knee and skewing off to the side here. I'm not letting my ribs wander right, or my head wander off to the side, or my hips wander off to the side. I'm staying centered, and I'm having things move. I'm letting things move, see, around that center rather than off that center. So just play with that. Just think of it as perhaps a new movement possibility. Again, I know I say this all the time, but if any of these little motions create discomfort, especially in your low back way off, you might not be ready to do them yet, or you might need to do like the tiniest, most minuscule version of them for now. Okay, let's do the other leg. So now I'm going to bend my left knee. This is my much harder side for me to do. So as I bend my left knee, I am hoping that the left half of my pelvis drops without kicking my hip out to the right, my ribs to the left, and my head cocking over to the side. Okay, so I'm going to try to just bend that knee and keep everything on axis. And I'm already feeling like I'm trying to rotate a little bit. I'm trying to do stuff other than bend the knee and let things tip a little bit. My body just doesn't, it's sticky around this movement, and so it tries to do other stuff to make the movement appear bigger. So just make sure you're keeping your movement small enough that you're not cheating yourself from the actual move that we're trying to do, and making it look like you're doing the move, you know, doing something kind of bigger, but you're actually like, so what I'm doing here is like shearing my ribs off to the side, I'm rotating, my left shoulder's totally off the wall, my right hip's going out to the side, right? So that looks like a much bigger motion, but it's not a big motion of the kind that I'm looking for. This small version of that is actually a much bigger move for me. Okay? All right, so forget about those two. We just did them to see if we could get a little bit of motion in those two planes into your body. Now we're gonna play with rotation. So I'm gonna hide behind this pole, and I encourage you to use a pole as a marker for yourself. So I'm gonna show it to you behind, and then I'm gonna show it to you in front so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm lining up my ankles with the post. So I'll do it here so you can see that. So I'm lining my ankles up with the post, which means I'm gonna be able to get, if I just were to pop my hip over to the side here, I would feel that greater trochanter bone bonk against the thing, okay? So that's gonna tell me that my pelvis is going to be relatively hidden behind this post, okay? I also want my rib cage, and really, let's not even think about the rib cage though. I want my head hidden with my pelvis. So if my pelvis is now hidden, but my head is poking out, that means my head is out in front of my pelvis, right? So I'm gonna have you bring your head back till it's hidden and your ear is at the middle of the post, just like your hip is at the middle of the post and your ankle is at the middle of the post, okay? So then we're gonna rotate. So all you're gonna do in this position, and just standing here with your head and your pelvis even might feel a little funky to you, might feel like you're doing something that you don't, a way that you don't normally stand. So as you turn, your body will probably try to bring you back to wherever you normally operate from if it's not here. So as you turn, so I want you to watch back here, because I'm going to show you how to do it wrong for a second. If I were to turn and not mind my pelvis, see how my butt's peeking out at you from behind the post here? Yeah, and my head's still out in front of me. So I might think that I'm rotating, but my spine's not doing that much rotation. I'm more kind of messing around with my, for me, I feel that kind of in my knee, actually. Knee and low back a little bit. So find your lineup. And then as you rotate, I want you to actually look down and make sure that your pelvis isn't going back or forward of your marker post. Same with your head. So you're just rotating your pelvis and then your upper body to the right. And you're seeing how far can you possibly rotate it before anything gets knocked off that axis. And so you're just playing with that. Rotating right and then back to looking straight ahead. And rotating right. Check your pelvic position. It is turning, it's just not sticking out, right? Or tucking forward. Rotating. How far can you rotate your pelvis? Can you take your ribs even further? And so I'm staring straight at my post here, okay? So the position, I don't have my marker here, so I will probably go off axis a little bit, but we're turning the pelvis and the head, well, in the same direction, right? And then we're gonna take the head back toward the front. Okay, so we're letting everything turn, and then we're gonna take the head back to the front. All right, so from behind the post, I'm letting everything turn, and then I'm gonna turn and look forward, and then come back. Everything turn. How far can I turn it, turn it, turn it, turn it, turn it, and then look back. Okay, so I mostly feel that around my waistline. See where you feel it. Okay, and then we're gonna try the other side. So I'll do this one in front of the post so you can see when it pops out from behind me. So I'm gonna have my ankles lined up with the post, my pelvis lined up with the post, and my head lined up with the post. And then I'm gonna rotate, 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 pelvis. So my right knee is bending, that's fine. My left leg staying straight. Whoops, I'm totally sticking my butt out. I'm gonna come back. Rotate, rotate, rotate. So I don't have nearly the range of motion on this side, and it's much, much harder for me to stay on axis on this side, and I feel a ton of work through some of these core muscles in my waist. Whew. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Pelvis is staying centered, head is staying centered. Keep going if you can. Okay, and then this time we're going to bring the head a little further into it, or further into the motion. So we're rotating the pelvis, we're rotating the ribs, we're rotating the head, and then we're going to turn the head back to front, and then everything back to front. Rotating the pelvis and the ribs and the head. Whew. And then I'm going to turn my head back to the front, and then everything back to the front. So we're just piecing our way through some rotations in different directions back to the front. And we're going to do one more, turning everything left, 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 and then turning the head back to the right, and then back to the front. Okay, so this time we're going to put a leg back. So I'm going to show you that from behind the post. So I've still got my right ankle lined up with the post, and I'm going to find my line. Yeah, so I've hidden my pelvis from you as much as I can. I'm hiding my head from you as much as I can. Okay, now I'm going to step my left leg back, and you'll see it takes me back, so I'm not hidden anymore, right? So I'm off my line. So can I have my leg back here, but get myself back to that line? So I'm going to keep my foot back there, but I'm going to try to bring my pelvis. So I'm going to let my right knee bend. I'm going to bring my pelvis to line up with that post again, and my head. Yeah, so I'm trying to hide from you. So this is where I was saying it's easier if you have something that you can have your hand behind you. If I was stuck against the wall here, I would just have my arm hanging down at my side, which would be fine too. Okay, and then I'm going to back off again. So same, I'm going to bring my pelvis all the way to that post, and then I want to make sure my head stays behind it too. And then I want to reach through that back leg, really, 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 really reach, as if I was trying to get my heel on the ground. My heel's off the ground, and that's fine. We want the heel to kind of have to come off the ground in that way. It will if you get your pelvis far enough forward. So forward, 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 forward. Make sure my head's there too, and then reach through that back leg. Hopefully you can feel that when you get to that point where you're all on your line as you come forward, if you really reach through that back leg, reach back through it, it will pull your pelvis a little bit to the left. Yeah? So let's try that again and see if you can feel that happening. Bringing that pelvis to line up with the post and your head, reaching through the back leg should have tugged your pelvis into a rotation to the left. Okay, so let's just find that place where once you've come forward, you can have your pelvis and your head both hiding behind whatever you're using. You're reaching through the back leg, and that has pulled your pelvis a little bit into a leftward rotation, so your pelvis is going left. And what you probably feel already is that your rib cage is going right slightly, just because the arm is back here, and so you have to keep your chest straight ahead. So let's take that arm and actually take it a little bit further around, and it will take your rib cage a little bit further around. Don't let it take your pelvis anywhere, okay? So as you come forward, pelvis behind the post, head behind the post, you're reaching through that back leg. Now your right arm is out to the right behind your post, and you're gonna turn it, but you're gonna keep the face facing forward. Okay, so again, I'm feeling that through here, around mostly my waist kind of core, a little bit in this sort of upper butt-ish area. So let's try the other side. So I am lining up my ankle. I'm going to bring my pelvis forward until that greater trochanter, that bone bump on the out. We think of it sometimes as our hip, right? It is part of the hip joint for sure. It's just not the ball joint inside. So I guess it's not part of the hip joint. It's part of the hip, part of the leg really. So come forward. See if you can get far enough that that touches the wall, and then can you have your head there too? Forward. Is your head there too? Okay. And then as you do that, can you reach through your right leg? And that should take your pelvis a little bit more to the right. Okay, now your left arm should be behind your post. You're going to reach it out to the left and let it take your ribs further left while your leg is still reaching back, and that is pulling your pelvis right. So you're just going to play with that motion as you come forward. You're coming on to your left foot, your pelvis lines up with the post, your head lines up with the post, your right leg's reaching back, left arm pulls rib cage into a left rotation, you're looking straight ahead. And we'll do one more. Bring yourself forward, pelvis lines up with the post, head lines up with the post. Reach through the back leg, left arm rotates, rib cage left, facing straight ahead. And then back again. Okay? Take a little walk around. Just see what that feels like to you. So for me, I just feel like it activates a little bit around here. And that doesn't mean you should be walking, any big different twisty way. It's just you might feel some muscles being woken up a little bit. Yeah, it might feel a little bit of movement somewhere that you didn't necessarily have before. So you could totally take that into a bigger place, right? If you didn't have any discomfort, again, in your low back and your neck and your shoulder and your knees, yeah, something specific, in your ankle joint, you could totally take this into something more like a yoga pose, right? Even though that's kind of warrior one-ish, but think about revolved lateral angle, yeah? If I take this foot further back, so here I'm lined up, if I take my right leg even further back so that this knee has to bend a lot more, and then I think about trying to get my pelvis forward, I'm really going to be getting a stretch, I'm going to be getting a rotation, I'm reaching through this back leg, yeah? So my pelvis is really going to be pulled back, around, and down, yeah? By back, I mean it's being pulled toward my back leg into a right rotation, yeah? And down on the right side. And then you could take your left arm out to the left, you could take your right arm out to the right, and you could just use those to take your rib cage further around. But when we start to get really big in these motions, things tend to start to fall apart. So if you want to play with that in a bigger way, just make sure that you don't rotate your ribs so far that your pelvis just collapses in too, because then you're not really getting the rotation in the spine that much anymore anyway. You're not getting the movement that we're going for, which is rotational. You're getting something else. So my ankle's lined up with the post. I'm going to see how far forward I can get my pelvis, trying to think about keeping my head over it, because now I'm not going to make it to the post because my leg's so far back, but I'm still trying to stay as if, and I suppose I could, right, you know, if I wanted to have my marker here, I could just scoot both my front leg out and my back leg out. Come down, even it out, and then take my arms out to the sides and rotate, still thinking of reaching back through the back leg. Rotate the ribs to the left. Now, so you could make that bigger. So let's just do the other side bigger too. Right leg out in front, left leg out behind. We're going to come forward. We're going to try to get our pelvis and our head lined up with the post. Both arms straight out to the side. Now I'm going to whack into here, so I'm just going to move my arm out here. And while I'm reaching back and left with my left leg, I'm going to reach right with both my arms, especially my right one. Really, the right one is what's doing the work. The left one is just kind of getting a little bit of length in my spine. Yeah, and again, I'm feeling a lot of work through here, like it's waking up some of my twisting core muscles, but I can already feel that I'm going far enough that it's wanting to drag my whole pelvis along with it, which is not what I'm after for this. Okay, that's it. So it's kind of similar to that really big yoga pose that we have done before. That's like this big giant lunge. You're in this little forward bend, and because you're reaching back through the back leg, your pelvis is going right. You're turning your ribs left, you know, and you're reaching your arm around, and then you're reaching this other arm up here. But I really think that these smaller versions of those types of motions are a much bigger movement for your body, because you're actually able to get the rotation, and you're not sort of doing some big collapsy thing somewhere because you can't access the rotation with that much leg reach. So it's just something to play around with, right? So we've just played around with 3 different ways of moving the pelvis, the ribs, and the head. This one, and we did this one, and then we did rotation. And so even if all you wanted to do were those 3 basics, you could do those 2, line yourself up with the post, and not even go to the one leg back, and just turn, trying to keep your pelvis and your head lined up with the post, and just see what that feels like for you rotationally. That's it. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I can't wait to see you again someday soon, hopefully. Bye.